Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's lecture on corporate level strategies. So today we'll talk about specifically how at the firm level, what type of strategy option they may have and how they can make effective decisions on the type of strategy at the corporate level they can pursue. So let's get started. Before we dive into today's lecture, let's do a quick recap on what we have learned last week. So last week, we covered the last two of the macro environmental trends or forces. And specifically, we delve into social force, where when we discuss how various belief system or preference collectively occurring at the societal level may influence firm profitability within a particular industry. We then dive in to discuss how technological forces also play a significant role shaping how firms operate and subsequently shaping industry level performance. And then we conclude by highlighting how environmental scanning, that's the system collection of information, could serve as an effective tool to collect and identify useful information. Right? So that's what we end up with last week. Today, we'll focus on the corporate level strategy. We'll first talk about what specific corporate profile they may exist, and then we will derive on the corresponding strategies and discuss how they are very mean in terms of pursuing corporate growth. And we'll also discuss when stability may be better options than growth. And we will conclude by discussing the Boston Consulting Group's matrix that will help firms to determine how to best decide whether to grow, diversify, or stay in a particular field at a corporate level. So let's get started. So this slide highlight the typical strategy pyramid, highlighting that at firm, for any type of firms, there are three levels of strategies that top management team need to design and implement it. At the corporate level, it's really about the firm level strategy, where the firm will need to decide whether to grow, expand, or adopt a stable strategy at the business portfolio level. And then we have business unit strategy, which focus more on how individual business unit or how a particular group within a firm should operate. And then at the lowest level, we have functional area, where firms will decide at each functional area what they can do in order to best support the business level and corporate level strategy. Right. So today we're going to start at the corporate level strategy. And this corporate level strategy, also known as the firm level strategy, basically would be the strategic action that top management team will need to formulate for the entire corporation. And in the next two sections, we'll talk about strategy that will be formulated at the business level and functional level. And they are across these different levels. You will observe different type of strategic actions or alternatives that are available for these different levels. And on the Brightspace discussion board, you will discuss, would you rather lead a firm with multiple unrelated business or one of comparable size with only one single business? And also you want to explain why, right? So by having a discussion on this question, it will allow you to better understand how different type of strategies will influence how firms operate. And we'll only have discuss the first question in on Brightspace. If you have more time, you can also discuss among your team members on can firms succeed over the long term with the stability strategies, and that will give you a different perspective in terms of understanding how different type of strategy could have different benefits, right? And in terms of corporate level strategy, the first thing we need to understand is at the corporate profile, right? The corporate profile often represent three different options. The first option is that corporation can decide to simply compete in a single industry. So the advantage of this strategy is that a corporation can allocate their resource on one particular industry. So this firm can really specialize, right? They can devote all the resource they have in order to come up with the best strategy to survive in this particular industry. That's the advantage. However, the disadvantage is that if you adopt the single industry strategy, you are really put yourself into do or die situation, right? Basically you put all the eggs in one basket, and there's no diversification benefit. So there may be systematic risk that if something chaotic, something dramatic occur in this particular industry, then you would be significantly impacted. On the other hand, you can choose to compete in related industry, right? So you could develop a diversified strategies, and however, such diversification will be concentrated in a highly related industry. And oftentimes, doing so, the advantage is you may be able to achieve synergies that occur simply when two organizations result in higher effectiveness and efficiency that will otherwise be generated separately. This is when horizontal integration will be beneficial. And we'll talk more about some of these strategies. Or alternatively, what you can do is you can really diversify your company portfolio and have different business units that compete in highly unrelated industry. The benefit of doing so is that you will be able to diversify your risk, mitigate some potential risk. They may be systematically biased or influenced one particular industry because you choose to operate highly unrelated industry, then that simply means that you will be able to hedge some of the risks. And in terms of what you can do once you determine the corporate level profile, there are also three options for you to adopt the corporate strategies. So you can choose either increase in market shares, which is the typical growth strategy, or you can choose maintain the current size, current market share. So this is so-called stability strategies, or you can choose to decrease your market share or decrease in size. So-called retrenchment. Sometimes that's necessary. Let's look at each of these strategy and figure out when will each option be beneficial, right? So first, growth strategy. Growth strategy is basically increase in market share, right? And you can do this through two main paths. One is through internal growth, where you simply expand your organizational size. As a result of such increase, you should be able to capture additional market share, given that you have additional human capital that help you to capture these additional market shares by targeting and recruiting new consumers. Alternatively, so internal growth is perhaps less risky in the sense that you have more control and there's not much conflict that may result in from other growth strategy. The disadvantage is that such internal growth tend to be lengthy. It takes time for you to build up your internal capabilities, increase your organizational size, for example, and then to capture additional market space. All these require additional training and development. Alternatively, what you can do is you can grow by acquiring other companies, right? By doing merger or acquisition, you simply will be able to expand the market share that your company possess. A merger occurs when two or more companies, usually they are in similar size, decide to combine uh, into one through exchange of stocks. And acquisition, on the other hand, is basically when one company acquire the majority market share of another companies. And this usually will be done through the combination of cash and stocks. So external growth often will occur more quickly, as we have this previously implied. However, all these growth can encounter some internal struggles, internal politics, for example. Oftentimes, when you merge or acquire companies together, there will be serious cultural issues, cultural conflicts. One organization may prefer to do the different things compared with the organization they are going to merge together, right? So that will eventually result in conflict and making it costly to growth in externally. However, one true benefit is that this can be done rather quickly as long as you have sufficient capital, then you will be able to do so. And also, you may want to note that growth is not necessarily the best strategy choice for all organizations, right? And in fact, there are different other strategy compared to the growth strategy that we often assume. Let's take a look. One is that horizontal integration. This growth strategy simply highlight how a firm can acquire other companies in the same type of business. And this is so-called horizontal integration. This strategy allows firms to operate in a single industry to rapidly grow without moving into unrelated industry. A good example would be Facebook and Instagram. So when Facebook acquire Instagram, they are really what Facebook trying to do is really to capture Instagram company using a different mechanism to increase their social media influence, right? And by doing this acquisitions, Facebook doesn't need to devote additional resource to compete with Instagram. Instead, it can simply absorb Instagram and have the corresponding market share, and that will give them instant boost in entering into this particular niche market. Another one is called horizontal diversification. A firm that could engage in this strategy when you acquire a business outside of its present scope of operation. So, but with similar core competencies, right? So a good example would be when Disney acquired Pixar in order to boost its capability to do animation, right? Disney has always been known to be a great storytellers. Yet they lack at that time when they make such horizontal diversification. What they really are doing is they by acquire Pixar, that actually will enable them to perform better in computer animation. So this is a wonderful strategy for them to acquire new technology that will help them in the long run. There are also conglomerate type of diversification. Basically means that acquisition through acquiring unrelated company operating in unrelated space. And the reason why a company will do so is you want to reduce fluctuation in cash flow or revenues. In fact, if you look at many of the large corporations in this example, such as Nextel, you will notice that they actually have entered into a very diversified industry. Not only it has its traditional breakfast brand, it also enter into pet space, into clothing lines, etc. Right? The reason why they want to expand their business portfolio across different industry is really to diversify. That will help them hedge potential risk they may encounter. There are also vertical integration, which simply refer to merging or acquisition of various stage of activities in the distribution channels, right? Good example would be when the chocolate manufacturer acquire a coconut bean processor that it was originally buying its bean from. By doing this, essentially it will reduce the cost of doing business because you basically will be buying raw material from your own subunits, and of course, you will be able to uh, get a better price for any type of purchase. And there are two distinct types of vertical integration. When a firm acquires its suppliers, or so-called expanding upstream, that is referring to backward integration. On the other hand, when a firm acquires its buyers, we often refer to expand downstream and is engaging forward integrations. And another way you can grow is to formulate strategic alliance. Basically, you form partnership with other firms that will provide you a complementary asset. A good example would be Starbucks and Target. By forming strategic alliance, they actually will not only be able to increase the number of customers visit particular store. So for Target, that's exactly why they want to partner with Starbucks, offering its visitors its opportunity to have Starbucks coffee while visiting their stores. And Starbucks will benefit as well because you actually allow them to capture a new market space without paying significant amount of rental fees. And there are other examples such as Red Bull and GoPro, Louis Vuitton and BMW, right? That really highlight the importance of forming strategic alliance. And oftentimes you will also be able to see such strategic alliance being formed in the biotech industry, right? Oftentimes many biotech startups will partner with large manufacturer in order to grow and to gain the manufacture and logistic capabilities from these large manufacturing companies. And while large manufacturing pharmaceutical company will use this opportunity to acquire the latest knowledge from these biotech startup, right? So it's really would result in a win-win situation if this process is managed carefully. So in addition to this growth strategy, firm may want to adapt stability strategy. This strategy simply refers to when a firm decide to maintain its present size and scope of operations. This can be very attractive, especially at the industry life cycle stage of maturity. When industry growth is slow or non-existent, that really means that doesn't matter how much additional money you put in to boost your human capitals, it would be very difficult for you to grow your market share. So when that occurs, you may want to adopt the stability strategy, maintain the similar market size and scope. And also, this will be beneficial when costs associated with work do not exceed its benefit. Right? That really means that it doesn't make sense for you to expand your market space because the more new market you capture, more money you will lose. So that's really it's not rational, right? The third incident when stability makes sense is that growth may place great strain or stress on the quality of customer service and quality of the product or service itself. And that's when firms really need to think about just stay the status quo, right? And finally, large dominant firm may not want to risk prosecution for monopoly practice. A lot of companies have gone into such troubles, such as Microsoft in the 1990s and Google nowadays. They have really become the dominant player in their corresponding industry. As a result, that will make it very likely for the U.S. federal government to sue this company for monopoly practice. So that's something to watch out for this firm. And sometimes it may make a lot of sense for company to adopt retrenchment strategy, especially when performance have been disappointing for several years, and it simply makes sense that it is to adopt such retrenchment strategy. That's when firm will efficiently determine when they should reduce its size. A retrenchment strategy often is accompanied by reorganization process known as corporate structuring. Oftentimes, they want to use these opportunities to ensure the new organization will be leaner and more effective in maintaining their profitabilities. Next slide presents three different entrenchment forms. First entrenchment form is a turnaround strategy, which aim to transform the corporation into leaner and more effective firms. By doing so, it allows the organization a chance to survive and profit over the long run. Yet, at this turnaround period, firms often need to adapt extreme measure. They will need to cut costs, eliminate unprofitable units, and reducing the size of workforce, etc. They will need to figure out whatever way they can make a business, make their business more efficient and effective. Then they will do all they could take to ensure the firm would be successful after this turnaround process. Or a firm can simply divestment. That means that selling one or more of company's business unit. And this is especially important when the industry life cycle stage is at the decline stage, where business unit simply doesn't make much sense for them to continue their operation in a particular industry, because if the market is not large enough, maybe the best way is for you to sell that business to others who may still knows the way to extract additional profit from such market space. Finally, the worst case scenario is called liquidation. Basically, this would be considered as the last resort, and you basically terminate the business unit by selling its asset. And in general, liquidation represents the divestment of all firm's business unit. And this will only occur if all else have failed. Yet you want to provide the remaining value to the preferred shareholders, right? So that's liquidation strategy. And so we went over both growth strategy, stability strategy, and reduction strategy. Now let's talk about when should firm adopt each of these strategies. A great tool set to conduct such analysis would be the Boston Consulting Group's matrix. Basically, it's a framework that allows firms to examine their corporate portfolio and by looking carefully among the business units and their growth potential. And this growth potential often could be categorized into four space. The first is the star space. The star quadrant simply represent a business unit that have high growth potential, at the same time also have high market share. That means that firm is at the right positions to extract additional profit from such emerging industry. In the quadrant where business unit would be considered in the question mark space, simply represent industry space where it has a lot of growth potential, but the firm does not have much market share. And in this space, perhaps it makes sense for firm to think about what growth strategy they could adopt. In the cash cow category, it simply represents a business unit with low growth potential but high market share. Although there's not much room to grow, they can still extract a lot of values by staying in this industry. And this typically is when the stability strategy would work best. And finally, dogs space or categories. This refers to low growth potential and low market share. And this space is typically not very attractive to enter. You may consider divestment strategy as well, right? So this is the original BCG growth matrix, and you can see that as we have discussed, in a highly attractive market space with high competitiveness, and that's really represent the star categories where revenue will most likely be equivalent to its cost. Yet, and this at this point, because at this high growth, high market share space, you need to spend equal amount of resource in order to maintain a large market share, because you constantly need to capture emerging market space. On the other hand, at the lower left corner is where the cash cow category will be identified. And that simply represent a high relatively market share business unit that have relatively high market share and low industry growth rate. In this space, usually it means that you will be the dominant player in that particular space. As a result, you often will operate very efficiently, so the revenue you generate will be greater than the cost. And this is when you will be able to bring in large amount of cash flow that will help you not only maintain the profitability in this business unit, and that could also help to support the operation in other business unit as well. And on the upper right hand corner, we have question mark categories where you do not have much market share, yet it's a high growth industry. And this point, by operating in this space, the revenue you generated actually will be less than the cost. Simply because you only capture a small market share, and in order to growth and capture this rapidly growth market share, you really need to devote significant resource in order to capture this market. So oftentimes by operating in this space, it will significantly decrease your cash flow. In the underdog categories, similarly, revenue is less than the cost. And this could means that this would be a moderate decrease of cash flow, right? So this BCC metrics allow you to better understand how these corporate strategy how these different business units can be categorized into a particular corner where a dominant strategy would work best. So this is another example illustrate the application of BCG matrix for Apple computers. So start is the iPhone and smartwatch space, where they are the dominant player in the market space, yet there are still a lot of growth potential. And Apple TV is definitely a question mark, where there may be high growth rate, but Apple computer doesn't have much market share. In order to capture it, they will need to spend significant amount of resource to educate their potential end users and compete with others. On the lower left corner, we have the cash cow, which is the Apple's laptop and iPad that really continue to generate a good amount of positive cash flow. And on the lower right-hand corner, we have the traditional iPad, where there's not much growth potential, and there's not much market share they possess at this point. Right? So this is a nice illustration to demonstrate the effectiveness of BCG matrix. Ultimately, it's all about timing. So I want you to to watch these videos, and in this video, it highlights the importance of timing, and that is something to think about when you determine how corporate level strategy can be formulated and implemented. So for the final project this week, each group should post their project plan, and by specifying the background of the company, and the problems that your group aim to address. So doing so will allow you to stay on top of the final project. You will have the opportunity to elaborate what these companies are, and provide their background information, and understand what may be some of the emerging topic areas. And also, if you have a chance, you may want to move on to step number 9 for the final analysis. Basically, identify the corporate strategy, right? You want to think about what's the corporate profile, what's the corresponding strategies, and so you need to do a lot of research and to figure out what business units, how many business units are, and how they will categorize into different space using the BCG matrix. All right, and that's it for this week. Thanks so much.